Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Hope you had a great week. I am very excited to be on today. It's got to be better than my past weekend of activities and adventures. If you're in the Discord channel or whatever, or close to me, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But spend a few more days at Children's Hospital with my oldest, going through some more medical issues. I will say I did not have this on my parent bingo card. I don't
Parent
think it,
bingo.
but I don't think anyone probably has this kind of thing on their parent bingo card. So, but definitely have a greater understanding of what parents with children who are dealing with medical conditions go through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You should probably give someone details just in case, at least
I can
a
give
minimum.
some little minuscule details. So basically, I think the main thing is that one, in my I don't know, my ego or whatever, when this all took place, I was not thrilled at the timing of it. Um, but I will chalk some of that up to just being tired as well. So at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was awoken. My wife and I were awoken by Hezekiah coming in, writhing in pain, and not knowing what was going on. My wife immediately thought that it was like something having to do with the appendix, and I was like, "Oh, come on, like, like really, like we're at this point again."
Uh,
I don't know. Like I said, I was tired. Um, Eventually, like he was so bad. I was like, all right, let's go. So got him all packed up, got some things together. And since it was 3 o'clock in the morning and he was in definitely you know how they ask you like what's your pain scale from like 1 to 10, was definitely a 10 plus easily.
mm,
Uh, um I decided that it was time to step back into my youngin days and really find out what the Prius was made of, and turned turned the highway into a race car track, um, and made it to the hospital in like 10 minutes. So if anybody's looking for an ambulance driver, I'm your guy. Um, but got there and got situated, and it really was a bad situation, honestly, because
yeah.
once they examined him, which by the way, too, probably one of the most funniest parts of looking back on the situation was when we got in, I put him in a wheelchair and rolled him up to the front desk like to check in, and they asked him what his pain scale was, and he yelled it at them before I could even answer them. So I was like, oh, we're gonna get seen real quick.
Yeah.
Which we
Yeah.
did.
Good.
Uh
Good.
yeah, so a huge team converged on him of like 20 people. It was very reminiscent of what we dealt with when they sent him to the ICU the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was wild. It did not take long for them to admit him at all. And they were able to subside the pain with some medicine, and get to kind of the root cause of also what was going on, which was like a bunch of different low level things, which all have to do with basically him having Addison's disease. But yeah, so we spent 3 days at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which that staff there is amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate everything that they do and continue to do for our family. So, but he's home. We got home, and I was like, "You're not going to school for the rest of the week," even though it's like homecoming week, and like this is his first year in upper school. I was just like, he's got too many doctor's appointments, like outside of things. Like it wouldn't be
Yeah.
worth it. Like, come in, go out, come in, go out. Like I would find that frustrating if I was a student, and I know that it disrupts his pattern, so it doesn't
Hmm.
really work well. So he's at home, just chilling out, which I'd rather him be just doing that. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. Just lots of doctor's appointments, just dealing with insurance stuff as well. So, uh, yeah, life is rolling pretty fast.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And again, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, when it's like, why? What? Nothing should wake me up right now. I'm an old man. I need to sleep.
Yeah,
But getting into that emergency mode, that's just how a parent is. Jump up and like, okay, what do we need to do? Right. And taking
yep.
care of it.
And
So,
also too, staying calm. I think that's a
mhm.
that's something that I feel like I do a pretty good job of, which is really wild, seeing as how a lot of times I can get really anxious. But when it comes to emergency type situations where like there really is no other action than to like start reacting to these things and
Mhm.
doing it, like um I tend to do much better in that type of situation versus like a waiting type deal. And so like I handle some of that a lot better than Corey does in
Mhm.
different aspects. Um, but yeah, because like the doctors, they seemed like they were almost taken back by the fact of how like calm I was to the situation. I'm just like, hey, because they're like, oh, we're sorry. Like, can you move? I'm like, you just tell me where you need me to be. I'm
Right. Yeah.
fine being wherever. Like, I mean, as long as I'm getting to be with the kid, like, and if
Mhm.
it's some situation where it's absolutely not possible for me to be with the kid because it's unsafe for me, then sure, like I will vacate that space and let the medical team do what they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of surprised at parents that don't react that way. It always kind of shocks me because I know for myself, I mean, we haven't had any major medical emergencies. We've had some stitches and things like that. But yeah, okay, can I be in the room? Cool. All right, where do you want me to stand or sit? And I'll be right there the whole time. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm not going to get close. I just want to be here and just calmly, sit through it. And it's awful. For me, it's awful to not be able to help, and that sense of helplessness too when your kids, even when my kids just get a cold, it's like, oh, I can't do anything for you, baby. You're just going to have to take some medicine and rest and be
Yep.
sick until you're not. But when it's something even more just devastating, uh, yeah, just to sit there and let it happen. But that's what you have to do because you're not
Yeah.
going to be
Well,
any help. You can't
mhm.
help. You're just going to get in the way, and
You
that's a
don't have any
hard thing, I
medical. Yeah.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right. You have to get around your ego, I think. And I too, I work much better in an emergency situation or in a crisis situation than I do in daily life. Um, yeah, your car caught fire. I'm your dude. I got you. I'll find your fire extinguisher. I'll put it out, get you out, whatever we have to do. I'll make the decisions. I won't even think about it. But you want to go to the scout meeting? Okay. Okay. Yeah, we can go. We can do this. And it's just silly stuff like that. Is the stuff that, especially with social anxiety, that just kind of floor you. But I think it's good too that, again, in many things where we find our partner is our counterpart, you know, where we
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I know this isn't a situation where you excel, but I do or I will. And I think that's good too, especially for your kids.
Well, and
Balance.
two, like you were talking about, like the partnership side of it. So for me, like I can handle the stressful situation and be there and stay level headed. Um, my wife on their side is very good at taking the time to ask the right questions to get answers.
Hmm.
And so I think that sometimes my brain doesn't like switch on to that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think part of it is like I'm there in the moment. So like I'm getting different like pieces of that pie. And
Hmm.
so when it comes to like the doctors coming in and doing like their morning team meetings and stuff, like I usually have her on speakerphone or FaceTime or something because she will ask the questions that I didn't even think to ask and honestly was like, well, I figured that was probably part of the situation, but
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to get them to verbalize it and then also go into depth on it is huge and super helpful. So yeah, that definitely it helps to have, definitely another person to, be seeing other parts to this whole situation.
Right. Right. All right. So we have to shift gears because we have a guest coming on, and I
Okay, we're
have
shifting
no
gears.
way to transition from one to the other.
Well, I will say
Um,
this: I've been allying for my kid. Been an ally for my kid. Would that work? Maybe no, it doesn't work. I don't know, but
no, it doesn't. I don't
that
love
doesn't work.
that. I don't love that. But it's an effort, and I appreciate the effort
Hey,
because
I tried, man. I was
I
trying.
had nothing. I didn't even try. So yeah, you're a step ahead. You're the professional.
I got to use the word in a little bit
Yeah,
there.
put it in there.
So, but no, I mean, okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. So we are having a guest on today, like we've been having on for a while, are different guests that are speakers for Home DadCon.
Hmm.
Um, so this guest has been is a returning speaker.
Hmm.
They've done a breakout session on nail polish and painting your kids' fingernails, and that was an awesome one. That was out in Phoenix. I actually got to spend one-on-one time with him and just really get to just enjoy learning some new things. And then he came to Milwaukee and did another talk that had us all in tears, and it was amazing. And he's coming to St. Louis to do a third, and this one that he's doing this time, and I feel like this is really like the biggest part of his wheelhouse in some ways, because I know talking
Hmm.
to him, like this is one of the things that he has presented on before to corporations and other businesses and other groups and things like that. So definitely coming in with a ton of information and resources, which he always does. Uh, but Jeffrey Bernstein is going to be coming on today to talk about the 5 languages of allyship. I kind of wanted to get a little bit of your insight into that. I feel like that's part of what your family has involvement in, just
Sure. Yeah.
on a more regular basis than mine.
Yeah. Probably a more regular basis. I think everybody can join. Everybody can be in the
Sure.
pool of
Yes.
allyship, so it's a thing. But my oldest son being transgender and being gay, and there's a lot of changes that you have to go into that, from the way I was raised to the way I'm raising my kids, which I think is true in so many ways. But yeah, having a kid that's gay is a surprise in some ways, but it's not really a shock or anything like that. It's just something like, oh, okay, well, there you are. I do, I do admit I miss talking about girls with him because he doesn't like girls, and I'm like, oh, what do you think of her, man? And he's like, Dad, I'm like, I'm sorry. What about that cool car? You like that? Look at that Ferrari. He's like, okay, it's a car. I'm like, oh, come on, man. You got to give me something. It's like to have no dad topics to go over. It's like, we could talk about grilling. And he shut that down immediately. It's like, I want to learn how to cook, but I'm not going to talk to you about grilling because I feel like you're going to have to put on the Hi Hungry on Dad apron and your New Balance shoes. And you're just going to have to. And I'm like, you're right. This is what we should do. But, other than, and that's all joking, of course, none of those things are actually a problem. But other than just the understanding of who he is, there's really nothing to it. It's just a matter of looking at it and saying, okay, well, this is what you want. This is who you are. Letting a child choose their name is a very interesting process, and it's against what a lot of people live and believe in our culture. But I mean, if you look at like Cherokee culture as an example, you get a name every 7 years sometimes. I mean, you get a name a lot. Who are you now? Who are you now? Because of the belief that about every 7 years you turn into a different person, you evolve, who you are. If you look at, because 7 is about the age of reason, you think about who you are at 7 and then who you are at 14 and then who you are at 21. Those are different people, right? And I've had exposure to that, and have been given different names by different people. So, like him choosing his name, that was an interesting process. It was a hilarious process because he chose names. And I'm like, no, you can't. He wanted Apollo. I'm like, yeah, Apollo's a great name, but you can't. No, no, you have to be a Greek god. Okay. You cannot do this. You don't understand. And Adonis, And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, Thomas
he was
is
really going down that road.
right. And I'm like, that's a well, his first, did I tell you? I think I know I've said it before,
He's
but
a
I'm going to
Peter
say it
Jackson.
again.
He's a Peter Jackson or a Percy Jackson fan, isn't that? That's what it is, right?
He wasn't, but he is. Yes. But his first one, which was delightful, and I didn't laugh when he said it, but he was very, very
Zeus.
serious. Shark.
Oh, whoa. Oh,
Right. And I'm like, okay, well,
Kid,
we can do
did his middle name was it Uhaha?
it was probably bait, but yeah, but again, he was very serious about it, and that's I really thought about it, Dad, and I really think this this is the name that would, and I'm just like, okay, well, we could maybe use that one as a nickname for a while and see how you feel about it, maybe for at least a year before I'm gonna commit to
Yeah.
that one. So,
Okay.
but yeah, there's a lot to it, and honestly, being an ally is very, very simple. It really is. There's so many easy ways to do it that just come into, and again, my favorite word this year is neuroplasticity. Just comes into your ability to experience something and change your mind. That's all it is to it. So,
I've never heard
but I'm
that word
sure.
before, but I will
No,
definitely put it in my vocabulary bank.
yeah, I'll try to use it more though because it is my favorite word this year. Experience dependent neuroplasticity is what happens with PTSD. You, especially as a child, you run into something, you experience it, and it changes how your brain works. So neuroplasticity is something that you lose as you get older. And as an older person, I gotta tell you, it's a real thing. So you have to actually actively work to keep your brain malleable. And that's why a lot of people, when they get into their, golden years, they don't have the ability to change their mind anymore. Their brain has lost that ability to really pivot and go, oh, well, so when I introduce myself now, I should say, hi, my name is Danny. My pronouns are he and him. And older people are like, what? Nah, there's no reason to do this. Well, okay, all right. But having that ability to kind of change how you think based on new facts is very, very, very
Yeah.
so, but
All right. No, I'm looking forward to having Jeffrey on. I think
me
that
too.
he's definitely like he'll he's always been a great person to talk to. I think this is gonna be like the third or fourth time we've had him on. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it'll be exciting to hear just kind of what he's looking to do with this presentation coming up. But we'll be right back with Jeffrey Bernstein.
Join us for the Dad's Run 5K in St. Louis 2024, benefiting the Fathers Overcoming Adversity Fund. Brand new to this year is the 1 mile Arch March. For our walkers or runners that want a short option, we got you. Participate in personal or virtually. The live event includes a 5K finisher medal, post-race food, and refreshments. Virtual participants complete their 5K the week of October 18th through the 20th, 2024, with a registration fee covering medal shipping. If you are unsure of how to train for 3.1 miles or think it too daunting, the plan Couch to 5K will get you there in 9 weeks. There's still time to start the journey. Link to this program can be found in any of the posts about the 5K on our social media platforms. Again, the date for the convention is October 17th through the 19th, 2024 in St. Louis, Missouri. In person to register for the 5K is $35. Virtual registration is $40. Sponsored by plantorun.com. To learn more, go to athomedad.org/Dads Run This House 5K.
Also very jealous of your cameras, by the way. Your cameras are just so much infinitely better than mine. And like I can see the pixelations on my screen. So I feel terrible about
You're
that.
coming through clear on this end. You
You're
look
good.
clear.
Oh,
now,
do I?
granted, it's
Now we are
not high.
recording.
It's not HD. So
Yeah, I'm like, and if
but
I were to go to turn the light on that I have here, by the way, I could actually adjust the luminosity.
It's like Ghost Hunters.
I know, right? I don't want to break a nail. Sorry, yes, I said that on recording.
I think anybody that knows you don't want to break a nail. I think
Exactly.
You're right.
It's no revelation.
This is every bit of this is editable.
Oh, good. Nope. See, it looks like I'm like
Yeah,
pimple popper.
you're good.
Turn that off. Not okay. Anyway.
You're good. All right, let's do this. All right, and we are back, and we have our guest with us, Jeffrey Bernstein. Now, I will just in all transparency tell you that we could have had an entire podcast episode about chickens for the past
Right.
15 minutes or so easily, and I would be okay with that. I mean, we've had other people on to talk about pigeons and other things like that, so
Yeah.
why not chickens?
Pigeons are
But
fun.
today we're going to focus, right?
We are going to
Everybody,
focus. Boy,
everybody,
really,
right?
I need something to grab
ADHD for the
onto for us to
win.
focus. Yeah. Woo. Okay. Yeah. So,
Convention, speakers,
yeah,
convention,
conventions.
allyship.
Yeah, we're there. We're there. So yeah, we are going to be just having a fun conversation with Jeffrey. We're going to be talking about allyship. I know this is a very passionate topic for you. We have
Mm-hmm.
had this conversation one-on-one in Phoenix,
Yep.
which was awesome. And I know like it's just something that's definitely on your heart. And so I'm very excited to hear that at Home DadCon. I was telling folks in the last or in the intro that you've this is like your fourth time presenting and or third time presenting, and you pretty much had everybody in tears last year. So I just I love your presentations, man, and
Thank
they
you.
just they bring a lot to the convention, and I feel like the guys attending really just get a lot out of it. I mean, everybody really enjoyed the nail polish and doing that, and
Mhm.
that's one that always gets brought up.
So wait,
And
I'll
then
have to. So wait, since you brought it up, I have a
yeah,
slight. I have to share a story that happened yesterday.
oh,
So I'm at the dentist with my kid who is getting a cavity filled. And at the moment where they are getting ready to apply the UV cap or the UV resin cap on the tooth and then flash the UV light in, the woman is explaining what's going on to Alexander. And I said, pre-K pause. I actually got to do a whole lecture about this and speech about this, Alexander. Do you remember when Abo at the Dad Convention taught about the history of nail polish? Did you know that all of Abba's nail stuff would not be here if it weren't for dentists in the 1960s? And this dental hygienist during the work just stopped what she was doing, looked up at me with her nails that needed to have, like, they were 2 weeks way past where they needed to be, and she knew she needed to fill. And she was like, how do you know that?
Mhm.
And I was like, because I gave a speech about this, and like it's important to me to know if the history of these things. And she's like, that is just the coolest thing that you know that. I was like,
Yeah.
anyway, so I go back next week with my other kid, and I'm gonna give her some polishes because she was very excited. Anyway,
Nice.
moving
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, and
But
I think
yes,
too,
yeah,
it's good to point out that this is a big part of your life. This is a big passion for you,
Yeah,
and that I think it's good too to understand that a lot of our dads, a lot of our men, are getting their nails painted. They like it. It looks good. They're good with their
I
kids
am
doing it.
watching
They're good with.
so many of our community like
Hmm.
buying, posting, sharing
Hmm.
all of the things that they're not just doing for themselves, but with their kids, like you just said.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what their genders are, what they're doing. Some of them won't do it. They won't actually participate. One of them in particular, I'm going to, not that I need to keep it confidential, but loves to have their nails painted before an athletic event. And I just
Hmm.
think that's freaking brilliant, right? There are so many different traditions that we all have and things that we have to be ourselves. And like, I
Hmm.
love it. Like, I
And the
absolutely
reason
love it.
I think it's very important to say these things before we get into allyship is what we were talking about before we brought you on was neuroplasticity, right? It's
Okay.
your brain's
Hmm.
ability to take in new information and change.
Yep.
Basically, it's something happens, your brain changes, and how we lose that as we get older. And you can see that in the oldest generations of ours that just can't change their mind about stuff. This is the way
Hmm.
it's been, this is the way it's always been. And part of it is being able to say, it's okay if you paint your nails. If you like to paint your nails, you paint your nails. It doesn't matter if you have a penis or not. This doesn't
Right.
have anything to
Like,
do with it, right? So, in the same way, too, I feel like it leads right into allyship,
sure
and
does.
I think it's a part of okay. So the world is not what I grew up in. It's okay. The world's
Yeah.
great. You just gotta shift a little bit. You gotta pivot, right? The way I was taught, the way I was raised is not the way I raised my kids in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that's normal and natural and expected. And I think for us, what I was looking at is that correlation. It all comes down to that pivot, understanding what life is like in the
Mhm.
reality that you live in and being able to, learn how to accept it, how to introduce yourself with your pronouns is one of the things we brought up.
Yep.
We've been trying to do that a lot. My name is Danny. My pronouns are he and him. And everyone that looks at me knows that I present as a man. I mean, I'm pretty obviously that's how I present, but it's not for me, right? It's
Yeah.
for everybody. It's for
It's for
people who
everybody,
don't, or
right?
it's who people like my son who's transgender, who doesn't. I mean, he pretty much presents as male, but he hasn't had a lot of surgery or anything, so he's still kind of feminine looking.
Okay.
And for him, so I can say it, and then he can say it, and never other people are like, oh, that's what we're doing now. You know, it's a
It's
small
about
change,
normalizing
but
behaviors. Those small
it's
changes are
yes.
parts of what matter. Um, they are part of what make the difference. And it's actually those small changes that I will be talking about in
Hmm.
part of what I'll be speaking about at DadCon this year. Um, but if I may, more importantly, and I think that this, I don't want to say it sums up what you're saying, but my ending quote for, because I always love ending with a quote like I did last year. Um, my ending quote, and really is the theme of this entire presentation this year, is that do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better.
Hmm.
And Maya Angelou said that, and it's the truth. And when we don't know better and we refuse to do better is when we get stuck and we stop growing and our neuroplasticity begins to stop. And I
Yeah.
think one of the greatest things about parents that are in your, my generation, Brock's generation, by keeping these open communications about how we want to see the world, we already are we're putting ourselves in a place of being change agents because we're saying, I'm committed to learning as
Hmm.
opposed to I'm committed to raising my kids. Both can happen at the same time. I'm committed to raising my
Right.
kids and I'm committed to continue to learn and grow so that I can be better, do better, and show my kids that that can be. And then the next generation continues to hopefully instill those behaviors. Frankly, Danny and Brock, you might agree with what I'm about to say, but we're gonna fuck up and we're not gonna do something right in a situation, and our kids are gonna see it,
Hmm.
right? And they
Yeah.
get to make a choice as to whether or not they want to continue that on when they have families or choose to have families or build or teach others in their lives and become more figurative roles, right? Not all parents are perfect, and sometimes we don't always understand why we do the things we do. But
Hmm.
it's about being able to recognize it, make active changes. But anyway,
Right. Yeah. I look at it as, is what my parents taught me and then what I've learned since then. But I was taught a certain way, do certain things. Okay. Well, I've learned that that's not how I want to do it, or that's not what affects my kids, or that's not what best for my children. And so I change it, So the difference is being, yeah, you learn as you go and you pick up and mistakes teach you a great deal.
I mean, if you let them,
Hmm. Oh, that's
if you,
true. Yes.
right? If you
You're
let them.
open.
And one of the other components I'll be talking about, and it's going to ruffle some feathers, by the way, in the speech, and I plan on it. It wouldn't be me if I didn't have some feather ruffling, because fluff up my feathers. But one of the hardest things about allyship is the innate and almost natural sense of defensiveness the quote unquote ally tends to project when something goes wrong.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
learning how to control our defensiveness in those situations makes or breaks just how we are as allies. And that it's important that when we make mistakes, we hear what those mistakes are, as
Hmm.
opposed to, well, I didn't mean to, and it's not my fault. And like there have been times where I've had people of color reach right out to me within minutes of me posting something and saying, hey, you really need to take that down and consider this. And what
Hmm.
would I be if I didn't listen?
Right.
Who would I be if I didn't sit back and say, well, whoa, whoa, whoa? People who I love are coming to me and telling me I ought to do something because of something I said. First, I'm going to put a pause on whatever this is, and I'm going to think, and I'm going to listen.
Hmm.
I'm not going to get defensive. because it's not my place to be defensive. I clearly made people feel a certain way,
Right.
and that's not okay.
I wanted
Right.
to,
How do
I
we
wanna
go ahead?
yeah, I wanted to kinda touch on that a little bit. So, I think that for a lot of people, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like there are other people that I've run into with this, but a lot of times when you think allyship or you hear that word,
Hmm.
the thing that first comes to mind is LGBTQ community.
Sure.
Uh, and I think that just like what you were saying, where it goes outside of that, like you were
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about
very
people
much
of
so.
color. And I think that I can you expand a little bit on that? Like as
Yeah.
far as that, because
So that's actually, yeah, I'm going to be so very, very clear in this podcast. I will not be speaking about allyship for the queer community in this particular speech, by the way. I might be wearing my humanity shirt right now or human shirt, right? And this is definitely a more of a queer inspired shirt. But very little do I talk about my queerness outside of my opener, because allyship to me is not about one community. Allyship
Hmm.
is not about being focused on a narrow objective. Allyship is about looking at the world around us, and it's about recognizing that we as people are born with privilege, some of us more, some of us less. And how can we use that privilege to strategically leverage the current systems to be able to lift up those who are most marginalized? Could that be somebody who's white and disabled? Abso-fucking-lutely. Could it be a person of color? Abso-fucking-lutely. Could it be somebody who's Asian? Could it be somebody who's of indigenous descent? Could it be an intersectional, right? Intersectionality. Yeah. So this is what I'll be talking about. I'm not specifically speaking to allyship to just my community because that would be missing the mark if I'm being honest. Um, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that that's the case because and not to say that, focusing on one more than another, but I think that a lot of times there is just, you get that one focus on one thing.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's like,
Ah, for sure.
you need to unlock more of your view so that you
Absolutely.
understand that like it's a much
It's so
broader
much
stroke.
broader. It's
Yeah.
so much broader because, oftentimes like, oh my God, that's so gay. Like, yeah, that's a comment we hear in general conversation, and people aren't typically going to speak up about that. They let that one slide, right? But when they hear an off-the-cuff joke about, a black man and somebody clutching their purse because they're walking by, also people aren't going to correct that. And that's a problem.
Right.
Now, I'm going to share what happened on Monday because I'm trying to weave this into my speech actually, because I firmly believe that real life interactions help people understand that even educators are not remiss from teaching and learning. Both of my kids were in a situation on the bus on Monday where some really uncomfortable things were said about their Jewishness. My daughter decided to speak up and say that all families belong and that she belongs, and my son froze up like a deer in headlights and said nothing.
Hmm.
And both are okay.
Hmm.
Both are appropriate responses.
Yes.
And we had to then navigate why it's okay for Phoebe to speak up or to not speak up should she not have wanted to, and why it was okay for Alex to also respond the way and he responded. If I'm successful in what I'm going to be embarking on with our group, and one of the reasons why this idea came to me, because this idea for the 5 languages of allyship came to me actually after the intimate conversations I had with so many of our dads at the convention last year, where not everybody is willing to be the first to stand up and call out that racist joke that happens at the
Hmm.
table. Not everybody's willing to call out the gender indifferences that they might hear at a PTA meeting. Not everybody is willing to stand up and say, hey, you know something? That's not okay that you just said that to Phoebe on the bus here. She's allowed to be Jewish. It's okay that you're both different religions. Allyship exists in different levels and at people's comforts. And sometimes taking baby steps, no matter how small it is, towards that level of allyship and co-conspiratorship, which is a word I think Danny might be more familiar with than you, Brock. I'm not sure. I'm making a big assumption. And I won't be speaking about co-conspiratorship here because that's a very frightening topic for a lot of people who are trying to
Hmm.
just really understanding what does it mean to be an ally as opposed to free dad hugs and I'm now an ally because I don't care about your free dad hugs, frankly. You coming out one day a year, and I'm not speaking to Jeremy Haston, by the way, because he has been speaking about this for year after year after year and has shown me as a real good human who he is as an ally. I just know that that was a very current post.
Hmm.
But a lot of people on my feed come out once a year to their Pride Fest and wear their free dad hug shirt. And I'm like, that's cool that you did that for the day, but what did you do yesterday? Did you just
Hmm.
iron your shirt? Like, and that doesn't mean that you have to do acts of allyship every day, but it's more than just putting a shirt on.
Yeah.
It's are you eating a Chick-fil-A,
Yeah.
right? Have you made really hard choices about where to support and where not to support? Now, that doesn't mean me as a person is going to judge somebody who eats Chick-fil-A, like my
Hmm.
brother, who always has a Chick-fil-A cup in his house when I'm over. Try
Same.
not to, but it bothers me, and he
Yeah.
knows it.
Yeah.
But you're allowed, you know what I mean? So it's again, there are acts of allyship, and I say acts because it's about doing, not throwing a badge on and say I voted, right?
Hmm.
It's about what are you doing in the community? Are you teaching your kids? Because acts of allyship exist right in your home. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Hmm.
have to be public. It could be
I
what books Anyway, go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was gonna say, I know within like you're talking about the whole idea of like putting on a shirt for like one day kind of thing. Like that same kind of thing comes up in the business world too.
Hmm.
Especially the brewery industry that I'm in. It's like you see folks who different breweries get involved in it and
Okay.
some who don't. And then it is just like kind of a one day one thing. Like they're not doing anything else the rest of the time. And it really is kind of just a money
Hmm.
grab in a lot of ways. And I know like I've talked with our owners before about it, and they're just like, we're either in or we're out, and not in the fashion of like, we don't accept, like we're a completely fully accepting place, but like we don't need to broadcast it. Like people know, like just by reputation, to come that they can come here and that they're completely like, safe and everything else, and we're not going to brew a beer specifically for it as a money grab. Like we would rather be led by just example of
Hmm.
like you're
Nobody
welcome,
says that a
everybody's
company
welcome here.
like here's
Yeah.
when companies have approached me about how to handle things like Pride Month or whatnot. Like again, pink washing is a real thing. Specifically, is what I think you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
How companies, adhere the rainbow to their logo, change their logo for a month, take as much money as they can from the whole world, who want to quote unquote support, and then pink wash, boom, rainbow goes back to white. you know there is that's a real thing, and that's not anything we're going to be getting away from, unfortunately. As a company, I have very strong feels about how they support their individuals. I don't really give a shit if Coors, your company, or another company brews a special beer and slaps Dylan Mulvaney's face on there and right supports trans rights. Like, that's one way to be. What I care is at the end of the year, who is the company donating their money to when it comes to tax write-offs? Who are they supporting? If I go to
Hmm.
their establishment, what kind of flags are being hung up there? What kind of signs are there? What kind of training do their staff have when it comes to having queer people in their establishment, or people of color in their establishment, or a person with a guide dog in their establishment? Are they going to be the kind of staff that's going to be supportive or hyper secure, insecure? Are they going to be the kind of staff that can handle when there is a table of Trump supporters and a table of Kamala supporters over here, and there's a conflict? Can the staff handle that conflict and amicably work it? That's what I care about, and I think that most allies would care. I could give two shits if they brew a beer in our honor, right? Honestly, that doesn't do shit for
That's
me,
well said. Well said. Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's
Well, I
why
think
there's different levels of allyship, right? And then certain
that's
level
it. Yeah.
allies are performative. More performative, frankly, doesn't do shit for the community,
Hmm.
right, at all. Performing is great if I want to pay an artist and go see them perform. But
Right.
what happens after that performance? My feel goods are gone. It still goes back to the same old days where you've got people who are disparaging the queer community, most especially our trans folks right now. And I mean, I don't want to try to sound existential, but I'm going to focus on my community. But like, there are over 300 anti-trans bills right now in circulation in this country. Like,
Hmm.
that's pretty fucked up. And if we want to go alongside
Yeah.
and see, let's talk about some of the racist shit that's going on and redlining across districts across the damn country, right? Let's
Hmm.
talk about the freaking hateful rhetoric that's been passed down by a goddamn story from a potential new VP about immigrants eating animals. Like, stupid, horrible racist tropes that have been just repeated and
Hmm.
repeated. So like these are the things that as allies that we need to be able to call out and recognize and not just be like, oh, like let's be critical. Let's think about what this is, distill it down. And honestly, there are lots of Black content creators out there that are doing the work for us. All we have to do is elevate and amplify their voices that are doing the work.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say before because I know we're short on time today, but
you're
I
good.
do want to say that while there are definitely levels of allyship, and I still don't really consider myself an ally. It's something that I really feel needs to be more. I don't know. I just feel like I need to be doing more. I think that's just me. I don't think my
Hmm.
son, as an example, would agree with that. He gave me a sticker that said "Proud Ally" and said, "Put this on your coffee cup." And he thinks I am, but he's my son. But I do want to say too that sometimes we do anything that we can, and if
Correct.
that does end up being okay, all I can do is wear this shirt. I can wear this shirt at Pride, and that's what I'm going to do. And I want to say I applaud people
Me too.
if that's where they're at, if that's what they can do,
Correct.
because it is such a big change for so many people to
Yeah.
be able to say that you're even okay with it, much less stand up, much less make changes, much less go to
Correct.
Congress and do these things
Correct.
so that
It's all of these
it's
changes that
right.
matter.
And
It's the
it's,
sum total of this because
yes,
it's not about it's not an all or nothing. I don't there's a phrase I'm looking for and I'm terrible with expression, but it's not a zero sum game. I think that's the phrase I'm looking for,
yeah,
right? Where it's
right,
not like you have to be zero to Quiro in a matter of a moment.
right,
Like
right.
I'm not
You don't have
saying
to lose for me to win,
correct. You don't have
you
to
know?
lose for anybody to win at the end of the
Hmm.
day, right? And if your action is not even able to put a shirt on and go out in public, and it's as simple as putting a flag inside your house so that your
Hmm.
child knows that they're safe and any of their friends that might come over,
Yes.
that is so flipping powerful,
Hmm.
right? And having like even BLM, like again, focusing away from my community, or there are so many different ways. So
Yes.
if I may, I'm just pulling up one last thing I want to share
Hmm.
as I scroll, and you're going to want to edit this part out.
Are we going to
So
edit this
where
part out?
maybe, I
So you
don't
know how to
know.
find
Can we
it, so
Vogue?
you know where to get it.
Can we
I cannot
Vogue?
Vogue. I cannot. I cannot. No. No. There are things I should never do, and dancing is one of them. Yes. I still do
So
it, but yeah.
I Vogue. Are you kidding me? My kids know how to Vogue. I can't do a
Mhm.
death drop anymore, but that's what happens when you're 42.
I'm more of a walk
But
like the Egyptian kind of
I
guy.
don't believe
listen,
that. I think you can. I
I
think you should
mean,
try it.
as long as there's a couch underneath me, I'm great. Then
Hey,
I
so what's
can
this
death
quote?
drop.
What's this quote you got?
So it's not a quote. I'm actually going to share a little bit of what people are going to hear because I think this really sums up where I'm going with this speech. The five love languages of allyship, it's much more than a catchy title, even though I thought it on a plane. It's a call to arms, or rather, to me, it's a call to heart. As parents, here we are to unpack how we, and more specifically as dads, we weave these threads of allyship into our daily lives. How do we stand shoulder to shoulder in unity to cultivate a world that's not just fair and just, but brims with love, respect, curiosity, intentionality, and understanding? How do we ensure that the legacy we leave for our children is not just one of tolerance, but unwavering acceptance and celebration of our collective diversity? And that's what I want to leave us with today, because that is ultimately what I want to get us to feel as this is a part of our legacy.
Hmm.
And this is what we as parents get to leave to that next generation. And I can't wait to share more.
Perfect
Love it.
ending.
Yeah,
Almost right on time. Just a little bit.
Just like
A
one
little
minute
bit
later,
worse. Perfect.
all good. Well,
Perfect.
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the full talk. I
I've
think
had
that
almost 10 people reach out to me to tell me how excited they are
yeah,
to hear, to listen, and a few I've never met in person who are just excited to meet me. Like it has been what a rewarding experience to be involved with all of you guys. Truly.
you're starting to become a staple to Home Dad Con, and I am
I'm
very
loving it.
much excited about that.
I'm loving it. And
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. And if I'm, voted onto the board, may I help to be able to enact change in other ways and be more involved that way?
That's right. Yeah. For
So
anybody who doesn't know, Jeffrey is also running for the board this year as well. So that's right. It's been a few weeks, so a lot has happened. So
yeah, that wasn't the focus of today. Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to,
that's
get a
okay.
last little dig
No,
in.
that's
Not a
okay.
dig,
No,
but
it's
a
okay. Everybody listening to the show
promo.
knows who they're voting for.
It's
Oh,
a good
good.
plug. So,
You guys are awesome.
It's
oh
me.
my God. You're ridiculous.
I love you,
Wow.
Danny.
Whew. Boy, I tell you what, that semi truck went off the highway real quick.
But
Exit ramp.
Awesome.
I have talked to you in the past about being on our DEI committee, being on the board, getting more involved, and I know you're very busy. So if you do, it'll be fantastic. I
I
think
look
it'll be
forward to it.
great for our organization because we really we're trying, we're pushing, we're struggling, and we're doing what we can. But in a lot of cases, we don't know what we can do. And like you said, like you mentioned Chick-fil-A, and there are people that don't realize what's going on, don't understand why would you say that? What's wrong with
Why?
Chick-fil-A?
What's wrong with them?
Yeah,
Exactly,
you need to
right?
go look that up because
Right?
I
Look
can't
at
educate you.
because
I
I
don't have the
can't
list.
educate you. I don't have that, right?
Yeah.
Or why I don't go to like Hobby Lobby,
Yes.
right? And it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with queer rights. It has to do with reproduction rights. Yes,
Right.
it's tangential to queer rights, but it's about reproductive rights for everybody
Hmm.
and access. These are just hard decisions. Like I still don't shop at Target, right?
Hmm.
Because of what they did last year to the two trans designers for their swimwear and how they
Yeah.
caved under, uh, you know,
Like a
really, really crappy
house of
right-wing
cards.
pressure. Yeah,
Just yeah.
just like they crumbled. And it's like Target has been what I thought would be a champion for equality and equity over the years, especially
Hmm.
with the way that they pushed forward like black models. Then they were
Hmm.
all about like trying to not destigmatize is the word, like fat phobia. They had overweight
Hmm.
models that they came in the
Yeah.
mid to 2000s. Like they really were such pillars. And then it's like, okay, you're going to introduce trans swimwear and gender affirming clothing for your clientele, and then you're going to push them towards the back and just they hurt two big like two small growing companies with what they did. So
Yeah.
yeah, they don't get can't. I
Yeah.
can't. Like that's anyway. I
Yeah.
love you both,
Yep.
but I'm gonna go get on my other call,
Absolutely.
and I will
Yeah.
see you both next month. I cannot wait.
Well, definitely. We appreciate the time getting to talk
I
to you.
appreciate you
Looking
guys.
forward to seeing you in a few weeks, and we'll talk to everybody else next week.
Awesome.
Good night,
I'll talk
everybody.
to you soon. Good night.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.